Welcome to Stone Cold Stros. I'm Brandon Strange with Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. You can find them on X at Palillo and at Josh Jordan 975. And in between episodes of this show, you can read their blogs covering all things Houston sports over on sportsmap.com. On today's episode, the Astros find themselves in a pitching dichotomy. Jose, can you see a fly ball? We'll discuss the curious case of the Astros outfield. Speaking of guys in the outfield, Cam Smith came to spring training to chew gum and crush baseballs, and he's all out of Hubba Bubba. Just a reminder to hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications so you know as soon as new content drops. And if you're on the go, we're on all your favorite podcast apps. Just search Stone Cold Stros. Do you guys remember Hubba Bubba? Charlie, Josh, I mentioned in the tease, we have a contrast in pitching stories for Houston. One big update was Lance McCullers Jr. finally getting into a live game for the first time since 2022. 4 batters, 13 pitches. Certainly not enough of a performance to extract any real data from, but it was a major first step in his long road back. And we probably would have talked about that more, except for the news cycle swings the other direction with Luis Garcia, who was scheduled to throw a bullpen session on Thursday, but was shut down due to elbow soreness. From Chandler Rome on X, quote, Luis Garcia faced hitters in October and almost all winter and was considered ahead of Lance McCullers Jr. in their rehab schedules. It's unclear how things have derailed. The Astros reiterated this week they will not make any members of the medical staff available for interviews, end quote. So guys, the Astros as a team clearly don't suffer transparency, but their players continue to suffer rehab setbacks. For a team that has a reputation of shrewd business moves and tight purse strings, are you surprised that this organization has seemingly been unable to meet the moment of protecting their investments by getting and keeping their players healthy?
Yes and no. I mean, serious pitching injuries are epidemic. Go look at the Los Angeles Dodgers pitching staff last year, the last couple of years. Surgeries galore, younger pitchers, older pitchers lost for entire years and more. Tampa Bay Rays, basically an entire starting rotation of Tommy John surgeries within a span of a year and a half. The Yankees currently, the Texas Rangers over the past, it's all over the sport. It is curious, distressing, angering in the Astros case, if you live and die with the team, that so many of their guys' roads back seem to have off-ramps into Nowheresville. Look, Luis Garcia's career is finished until we see otherwise. I mean, who's going to be shocked if it turns out he needs another procedure? It's approaching 2 years from his Tommy John surgery, right? Lance, a feel-good story, but anyone who wants to put eggs in the Lance McCullers basket to be a solid contributor this year, that's hope. It would be foolish expectation, right? He took over 2 years since World Series 2022 to get back on the mound in any sort of game. I have a hard time saying, well, they're rushing guys back when it's damn near 2.5 years for McCullers between sips of water on the mound. Right? Garcia coming up on the 2-year anniversary. I mean, we know by their own admission, they rushed back JP France. Christian Javier, beware, right? He's not even a year removed from his surgery in June. So a real bummer for Garcia, but he's 28 years old. McCullers is 31 years old. To count on either of those guys in 2025 is a fool's errand.
I'm with you. That's what I was about to say, Charlie. We just did a video last week about how we feel better about the Astros rotation this year because of the health. And we were all, Garcia and McCullers should be coming back. And at least we have the 5-guy set, at least for now, knock on wood, with the Astros rotation. Last year, JP France, like you said, rushed him back. He was able to bounce back and get started at the beginning of the season after some issues during the spring. But then we know that turned into a bigger problem later. He goes out with the shoulder surgery. I'm getting concerned now. At least you have like Blue Ball. You have some other guys in the minors. And we do know there's going to be some parts of the season where they're going to need 6 guys, but hard to count on Lance McCullers. But let's at least give it a little positive. He got through the start. He didn't grab his elbow after that. He only needed the 13 pitches. He looked good. The velocity looked good. So hopefully McCullers can do it for you, because I don't have any confidence in Garcia. I mean, At minimum, this sounds like 2 setbacks for Garcia. It's probably more than that we just don't know about. And them trying to get him back last season at the end of the year, pushing that looks like a mistake. And as we look back even further, it looks like Justin Verlander was right to completely shut it down when there were rumors about him a few years ago, like, oh, maybe he can make it back for the postseason, and Verlander decided not to do that. That looks like the right move. He was a little older, so that makes sense why you wouldn't want to rush Verlander, and he had dollars on the line. But this is a concern, but it's hard to just blame the Astros for this. And we just talked about Garrett Cole the other day having to have Tommy John surgery. This just seems to be something every team's dealing with. Every pitcher at some point in their career, it's going to happen for them. And it's how do you bounce back? How was the surgery done? In McCullers' case, they thought it was a more minor surgery this last time. And then when they got in there and looked at it, they realized that it was a bigger deal than they anticipated. So they extended the recovery time for him because more stuff was injured in the elbow or in the forearm than they thought. I hope that's not the case with Garcia, but they just have to baby him. The last thing they want to do is have to have another surgery. But I mean, coming up on 2 years, that might be where they're headed.
The blame game is just part of the fan world, the frustration world, the internet anger world, but it's not like the Astros have a medical staff of quacks.
The three of us aren't medical professionals, obviously. We'll caveat that, but we can only react to the results. But Chandler Rome notes in the article on The Athletic that Houston had 5 pitchers last season suffer a setback while rehabbing injuries. So how much is that is to blame on just freak occurrences and the human body being unpredictable, and how much is that on the Astros ready to return procedures? Well, going back to James Click called into question whether the team's ready to return procedures needed to be reviewed or not. Dana Brown's been asked about the same thing. He's swept it under the rug. So we talked about the possibility last week, Josh. You brought this up about how we talked about, hey, there might be a possible glut of starting pitching in the rotation. What are they going to do with all these pitchers? Yeah. Well, now we have to look at the implications on the other side, because maybe Garcia doesn't get back this year. I mean, we hope not, knock on wood. We don't know what this soreness is, what the setback is, what the actual eventuality of this will be. But it's Charlie, to your point, it'd be foolish just to pencil him in for some time later. Like, oh, he'll be back after the All-Star game. We don't know that. Christian Javier, I think it's safe to say it's more likely than not that we won't see him this season. So those are the 2 major question marks. We'll monitor Lance McCullers Jr.'s progress closely. But they're going to absolutely baby him given the history of arm procedures that he's had. So as you look at it now, what are the implications now on this pitching staff? Now, the importance of a guy like Hayden Wesneski, the importance of a guy like Spencer Arrighetti, who, by the way, has had some struggles this spring as well. What are the implications now, looking at the major question marks around the health of the guys that are returning?
It just raises the level of imperativeness that the top line guys stay healthy, right? The Astros organizational depth has been in decline now for a couple of years. If they have to summon a starting pitcher from AAA, it's no one who qualifies as anything remotely approaching a premium prospect. Your AJ Blubaugh, Colton Gordon type guys. I mean, last season, when the rubber band got stretched far enough, they had to trade prospect capital, nothing elite, to acquire Yusei Kikuchi. Right, if Jake Bloss makes it to the Blue Jays and starts thriving, oh boy, we could just wait for the you-know-what storm in reaction to surface around here. The encouraging thing is the Astros, their returning starting pitchers, all were very durable. Right? Fromber had the early season scare with forearm fatigue, was shut down for a couple of weeks, but then went on to throw his annual 190 innings plus. Hunter Brown, 30 starts. Ronel Blanco, I think he just wearied from workload. It wasn't an injury thing. Now, the year after that we discussed in the last get together, right? Blanco and Brown both having eclipsed their career professional highs. The follow-up years, there are a price to be paid for that. Arrighetti was healthy wire to wire. Wasn't good wire to wire, but improved as the season went along and was healthy. Wesneski's an unknown, right? He's never been in a major league rotation for more than a short period of time. But, the odds are against any big league 5-man pitching rotation, all holding up healthily and pitching well over the course of a season. So organizational depth or need for trade is likely to come into play at some point, and that's why it's like finding a 4-leaf clover or a bunch of them if Lance McCullers can give them, say, 75 legitimate major league innings this year. I'm not holding my breath.
No, I think part of it for me is Christian Javier really slowed down what you're doing with him. I know everybody's different, but they have a lot of money invested in Christian Javier over the next few years. He's a guy that, in my opinion, they're going to let Fromber walk. He's going to be your number 2 starter next year behind Hunter Brown. That's how I see this, shaping up. So he's a guy you got to be extremely careful with him. There's no reason to push it. Try and get him ready to start next spring training. That should be the goal there. And the other thing, let's bring up the neck stuff. Remember Verlander out with neck discomfort last year. Christian Javier went to the IL with neck discomfort. Ryan Presley, didn't he miss time with his pillow? He slept wrong, neck discomfort. So it's not just elbow stuff that we're seeing with these Astros starters and relievers. There's been other issues as well. We didn't even bring up Jose Urquidy and him, having the issue with the Tommy John last year either. I know he's not with the team anymore, but it's just, it's so many guys. It does make you wonder what the deal is, but they got to stay healthy. We're trying to be solution oriented here, Brandon. That's what you're asking for. What has to happen? Yeah, Wesneski he needs to be that number 5 guy and do it for you. Ronel Blanco needs to do something similar to what he did last year. Arrighetti, take another step. There's not a lot of wiggle room here that you're counting on McCullers for this, or you might have to go to the minors again and pull somebody up. Not a whole lot down there, at least what I saw from Blue Ball in spring training. I saw some talent, saw him hitting 98 miles an hour in some videos that they put on social media, some good breaking stuff. So maybe he's a guy that you look to, but hey, stay healthy, guys, and just keep your fingers crossed that, baseball gods giveth, they take it away. Luis Garcia, you take him away, maybe you get McCullers. And then I point out with Garcia, I think best case scenario, he misses 3 months. I mean, best case scenario.
One of the 2 lightning rod topics this spring has been the Altuve move to left. Now, he's made some good plays out there, but he has also made, by my count, as many defensive mistakes. I've seen similar comments on X as what I've seen in our comment section, to the effect of, pull the plug on it, put him back at second base. The guys won a Gold Glove there. Guys, I'm going to ask you. I have my opinion on this, but in your opinion, does that solve for anything, putting Jose back at second base?
A little bit of baseball whack-a-mole. If you think you're going to knock down one problem, you're just going to have another pop up. In terms of Altuve's Gold Glove, that was in 2015, a decade ago. He's a lousy defensive second baseman at this point in his career, as he approaches turning 35 years old the first week of May. That's why the whole left field thing came into play, because he was a lousy second baseman defensively, coupled with Yordan Alvarez, the hitting machine, but they're worried about porcelain vase knees or other body parts holding up. So along with wanting to almost eliminate Yordan from playing left field, hey, moving Altuve away from second base, you hope that enhances your infield defense, if by no other reason, by default. But who's going to play there? Mauricio Dubon's a bad offensive player. Brendan Rodgers, they pick up basically off the scrap heap from the Colorado Rockies. Luis Guillorme has a track record that's Dubonish. Right? 30 years old, never been a good major league hitter. So what are you going to play at second base that you get offensively enough to defray, if not flat out offset, the loss of Altuve's offense in second base, upgrading you in left field, as opposed to a third outfielder that is not Yordan, that is, if not Cam Smith, who, Ben Gamble? They're just under-talented from what we've been used to for the most of a decade around here. And they're going to have either an additional offensive hole at second base, if Altuve's in the outfield, or an additional non-quality third outfielder to go with not exactly Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio in Myers and McCormick, right? The M&M boys, Myers and McCormick. Don't conjure visions of, let's go with Mantle and Maris, M&M boys with the Yankees back in the early 60s. So, they're going to have to cobble some things together, and the clock ticks on Cam Smith. When does he get here? And then, oh, by the way, all right, 30 at-bats against basically double-A pitching in spring training doesn't mean he's a surefire success, even if they carry him and give him an everyday opportunity right out of the chute.
Yeah, I hate to see a lot of people dumping on Altuve so much for this. This is kind of a Yordan deal. They got scared when he got hurt last year that he was going to miss the postseason. We were having talks. Is he going to have surgery on that knee all through the offseason? And fortunately, Yordan didn't have to have that. But he hurt himself sliding into second base. So, by him just not playing left field, I get it. You're limiting exposure to, and that is a wall that you don't want him crashing into in left field. But there's other ways for him to have issues. So it's not just that. And with Altuve, I think part of it is the last couple errors we've saw, he's trying to make up for his arm being a weakness. He's trying to, get lined up and get his body with all his weight going home to try and, keep a guy from scoring or tagging up at third base. So he's rushing it and he's making mistakes. But, part of that's what spring training is for, especially if you're learning a new position, is to get some reps and doing this. And Altuve, it's just kind of like a wide receiver. You got to make sure you catch the ball before you try and take off and run with it. Same thing with Altuve. You got to make sure you catch the ball before you try and transfer it and make a throw. I think that's something he can learn from, but I think it's important to keep in mind he's trying to make up for a weakness by being quicker with his exchange and trying to get as much momentum as he can into his throw. But you'd rather the guy, and I'm not even sure if Altuve, even if he had handled those balls perfectly, would he even have thrown the guy out at home to begin with, just because we know the arm is kind of weak. So make sure you secure the out. And if you get the guy at home, great, but that's the most important thing, especially if there's an 80% chance you're not going to get him at home. Make sure you catch the damn ball. But I don't want to kind of lose it over this. It's just a shame that you have Espada come out and there's all these reports, Chandler Ohm and McTaggart. Oh, Espada says Altuve is going to be the main left fielder. And then the second day in a row or whatever, he has another error that looked kind of same like the other one. The first one hit off the heel of his glove, but I'm very curious to see how this goes. I don't think you just automatically throw the experiment out because he had a couple bad days. Let's see how it goes. And I think the Astros are going to do that too. If it comes to the season and it continues to be a problem, then you make an adjustment. And I'd hate to be negative, but I am going to say this. Remember when Altuve had the issue with the yips, when he had those, throwing to first base? It was right around 2020, right, when that was happening. And he overcame that. But it went through my mind, is this going to be something where if this happens again with Altuve, where it starts snowballing on him a little bit and it becomes an issue that reoccurs over and over again? And if that becomes something that's a regular occurrence, then I think they might move him just to kind of get him out of his own head.
A couple things. Espada, what's he going to say? Altuve in left field so far? Oh, my God. He won his Gold Glove in 2015. This probably goes back farther than 2015. Lupe Fiasco, superstar. Well, Jose Altuve has been a superstar. Let's face it. So far in left field, he's a fiasco. Absolutely inexperienced at the dropping basic fly balls. You got on that, Josh. He's just looking to rush to make the transfer. Altuve's never had any problems with pop-ups, but as a second baseman, you don't settle under it and have to make a quick throw. So he's just learning in a very public forum, in addition to what work he does on the backfields. Does Altuve internally know his arm sucks? Because it does. That is evident. We've already seen multiple hoppers not even getting to the plate. You can't send Pena out to take a cutoff throw to stop a runner from going from first to third or second to home on a single to left field. You just don't have time to make two throws on the play. So Altuve will inflict some damage on the Astros out there, but it's not like he could cost them 10 games in left field, no matter what his level of defense was. But there are reasons. There are hardly any good 5'6" outfielders in Major League history. It's just very small sample size of 5'6" major leaguers, period. But
Right.
in the outfield, there are balls that his speed will enable him to get to some. Others, his short arms and his height, that he won't catch up against the wall, that Jordan would because he's 6'4". It's just something they're going to have to live with. They reserve the right, of course, to change their minds. And if they think the lesser of two evils is Altuve back to second base because it's Cam Smith's time to get to the major leagues, whether it's replacing McCormick in right or Chaz to left, Cam Smith in right because second base just isn't giving them anything offensively. And let's be clear, Dubon was a Gold Glove utility man. He would not project, I don't believe, as a Gold Glove second baseman. And even if so, would his bat over 600 plate appearances be something you want in the lineup? I don't think so, unless the other portions of the bottom of your lineup are going to exceed most people's expectations.
But Charlie, I want to piggyback on that because also in contrast, Jose's speed will allow him to get to some balls that Jordan wouldn't be able to get to in the outfield. And Jose has made some good plays out there, but as everyone's noted here, he's literally learning the position on the fly right now. So he's going to require a lot of grace as he figures it out. And I co-sign everything you guys have said, especially about the shell game that Dana Brown and Joe Espada are playing with the offense in the outfield and the defense on the infield. The outfield doesn't have enough offense. So you move one of the franchise's greatest hitters to the outfield, but by default, that makes second base that much better defensively because of Altuve's declining defensive ability there, but then it automatically makes left field worse, and move him back makes the infield worse defensively. And you saw that same hole out there in left field. As we've discussed, today's game puts more emphasis on good defense at second, disproportionately more than it does in left field. So, he's going to struggle there, but hopefully by the numbers, there's less opportunities for him to make mistakes in left field versus second, in which him getting the yips is much more punitive at second than it is in left.
The end of shifts a couple of years ago magnified the decline in Altuve's defense over that time frame.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, Charlie, you also raised Cam Smith and kind of how this all is connected. Cam Smith just keeps raking. 419 batting average, 1.371 OPS, 4 homers, 11 RBI over 13 games. He's played less right field than Altuve has played left. We talked about this before we hit record here. It makes me think of the Jason Dominguez rookie or prospect for New York. He's essentially their Cam Smith. They're really excited about his bat. Guy's been incredible, but he has struggled in the outfield. And not to say that Cam has struggled in the outfield, just saying that, the potential is there, but since he's new at the position. But what shines an even brighter light on it is the Altuve experiment that's happening in left. So I wanted to ask you guys about this and see where you're at on it. Is the Altuve experiment in left making it less likely that Dana Brown and Joe Espada roll the dice on starting a rookie in right, considering that it could possibly exacerbate defensive issues in the outfield?
It has to be weighed, but I think if they believe Cam Smith would hit solidly, obviously nowhere close to 419 or an OPS over 1300, but that if he'd be a legit major league bat, consequentially better than Chaz McCormick, that they would then go with Cam Smith, because you can make a late inning defensive substitution, whether that guy would be McCormick or if somehow Ben Gamel is still on the roster. But Cozy Dyken Park aside in left field with Altuve, if you have newbies in left and right, you are courting at least some defensive disaster, right? Jake Myers can't cover the whole outfield.
I agree. I just think it's to a point where it's the eye test for me. I thought they just rolled Chaz out there, but as I'm watching Cam Smith and what Chaz is doing this spring, I don't know if I'm Dana Brown, if I can just watch this and think I don't want to play this guy. I mean, Dana Brown has to be ecstatic over what he's seeing from Cam Smith. This trade makes him look like a genius if Cam Smith ends up becoming anywhere close to what he's doing this spring. I just don't know how you can look at this team and go, playing Chaz over Cam makes us better. And the other thing with Chaz is he's got a weak arm. So yeah, he can cover a lot of ground and he has experience in the outfield, but it's not like he has an arm like Kyle Tucker had or something like that. And Cam Smith has a bigger arm too. I just don't know if it matters that much. And I think with Cam Smith, I think he's going to adapt to the position a lot quicker than Altuve, just because he's a younger guy and he's just a bigger, better athlete that's more suited to that position just physically. And I don't know how you don't at least give this guy a try. And if, like Charlie said, if he's providing thump and he's hitting in the lineup, in the big leagues, they're going to find somewhere to play this guy. And I look at what Chaz is doing. I know we don't want to put too much, into the spring training, all that kind of stuff. So I won't even talk about his terrible batting average. Due to slugging 179, they're talking about, he's seeing more pitches. He's working some walks, and Espada is saying that he's hitting the ball hard. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing a guy that struggles to get any lift and get the ball off the ground. It just doesn't look like to me in the spring training games that are televised. Some of them aren't, some of them are. But from what I'm seeing, I don't see a difference in Chaz from last year to this year. I was hoping we'd see some kind of improvement. I have not seen that. So I don't have any confidence in him. I think you roll the dice with Cam Smith. If it doesn't work out, then you go back to Chaz or somebody else.
Yes, to me, it's not tragic if you go with Cam Smith and he starts the season 3 for 36 with 15 strikeouts. He's overmatched by big league breaking pitches, and you need to send him to the minors. I mean, it would have some clear talking points or learning points. All right, here's what you need to go down and continue to hone your skills. Not every future star comes up and lights it up immediately. When Craig Biggio came up at first, he was no good. Lance Berkman's first 6 weeks in the major leagues, he was no good. Alex Bregman began 1 for 34. The really, 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 really good ones, they'll figure it out eventually. Mike Trout's first month in the major leagues, he was 19, granted, but he was awful. So if you want to throw Cam Smith in the water and he's not quite ready to swim, it doesn't mean he's going to drown. You can fish him out of there, send him down for more seasoning, and then call him back up when you think that he has reproven worthy of an opportunity, or you're just flat out desperate because what you have at the major league level. But let's again send up the warning flare of sample size. While Smith is young, fresh, new, exciting, and a legitimate, substantial prospect, it's 31 at bats against basically double-A level pitching overall going into the last week of spring training games. Last spring training, Chas McCormick was fabulous. He hit like 370, OPS over 1,000. And then as soon as the game started counting, he was garbage, right? Before the injury, after which he was still garbage. 2 years ago, we talked about Justin Dearden, the talk of Astros spring training. Big difference. Justin Dearden was never a prospect of any real meaning. Cam Smith is a big-time prospect who the Astros really need to become part of their core going forward. Sometimes you try to fast forward the timetable out of necessity, sometimes out of worthiness because, hey, you really think this guy could be the truth. At the outside, 2026, the Astros need Cam Smith to be a mainstay somewhere in the middle of their lineup, and ideally Bryce Matthews is their second baseman. Smith might be ready now. Matthews isn't even close in terms of contending early in 2025.
Yeah, and Yuli's last year with the team, he had a great spring and then came into the year and just completely did nothing until it mattered in the postseason, which was awesome. But Charlie, you mentioned Dearden. Obviously, that's the ultimate cautionary tale of spring numbers. But when it comes to
Jeremy
Chaz,
Pena was fantastic last spring with an OPS over 1,000, and then the games that mattered came, and he went to being the average Jeremy Pena that he's been over his 3 years in the big leagues.
Yeah, but in fairness, we're not judging Chaz off of spring. We're judging him off of the entirety of his season last year, which was not good.
They're just crossing their fingers so hard.
So hard.
Can you have a positive relapse? That's what they're hoping, that 2023 Chaz rebubbles to the surface. I think it's more wishful thinking than reality at this point. But even if as just a platoon player, if he can hit left-handed pitching somewhere in the neighborhood of what he was pre-2024, he would have a real spot on the roster.
Yeah, well, that remains.
So who's real happy about all this? Jake Myers. Any normal year, we'd be talking about, oh man, this guy can't hit, and the glove's so great, and the arm's not good. Nope, that's your center fielder, Jake Myers. Way to go! Let's go, Jake. he's pretty happy about this situation. But I just wonder, and when the Paredes deal happened, is there a trade? I know we went through all this, Brandon. It's a shell game. If you move Altuve to second or left field, does it make it? Is there a trade where they can maximize their lineup to where they can be better defensively and offensively across the board? It's just with Altuve aging like this and you wanting Yordan Alvarez to be your regular DH, that's just kind of, and you just signed Altuve last year to this long-term deal. And if you're hardly going to get to use him at DH and he's already 35, we're just getting started with this predicament here.
It's a good question. The onus is going to be on Dana Brown, as it has been for the entire offseason and leading up to this year, is he's going to have to figure out how to make all these puzzles fit along with Joe Espada. Like I said at the beginning, the Garcia news kind of threw a last-minute wrench in our rundown. Charlie, you mentioned Jeremy Pena mashing last spring. Well, he's doing the same this spring. Zach DeZenzo is swinging a nice bat. Those guys, it would behoove both of them to continue to hit because this team needs it. Any final thoughts this episode before we're out the door?
Yeah, spring training. Now, with established major leaguers, there's even less reason to get worked up or flummoxed by spring training data. But you hope, and it's pretty damn important, so pray if you're into it for the Astros, that Altuve, occasional defensive struggles or serious defensive struggles, that none of those leak into his offense. And he's been horrible at the plate so far this spring. So has Yordan. And then Yordan comes up with a sore thumb. I will say in Alvarez's defense, he played a career high 147 games last season. The bulk of those at DH, but it's not as if he's missed 40, 50 games injured every season. If that happens this year, well, then the Astros ship's probably sinking with it. But Altuve, who was still a very productive offensive player, the best offensive second baseman in the American League, but absolutely a major tier down from the guy that he was in 22 and 23. OPS down over 100 points. By far the worst strikeout rate of his career. His walk rate dropped by about 40% from where it had improved to the year before. So you hope that any frustration in the field doesn't make him more, I need to make up for it by doing even more at the plate, right? Just be Jose Altuve offensively. It's not his fault that they had to move him to left field. Well, I guess it is his fault that his defense dropped off, but that's just, father time taking his course. Altuve needs to still be the catalyst for the Astros atop their lineup, or things are going to get a whole lot worse.
Yeah, I would just say kind of relax with a lot of these guys. There's a lot of good hitters on the Astros that are hitting under 200 this spring. So don't get panicked over that. But also finally, the Ben Gambles of the world and the John Singletons, I know how much Espada likes to play matchups and put the lefty hitter against the righty pitcher. And I just wonder if you get to the point where you can't keep a guy on a team just because he's left-handed. He has to actually be good too. So maybe it's time to go for some upside, with a guy like DeZenzo over Singleton or even over, Gamble with Cam Smith. DeZenzo's a nice piece because he can kind of play all over the field. It'd really be something if he could turn into a productive player for you that's young and cheap, and then you put him with Cam Smith. What if you have two really good young players that are deserving of playing time? I'd rather take my chances on them than, nothing against Singleton. I know he came in shape and all that, but I'm not seeing a lot of production from him this year. Gamble's been banged up the last couple of years. I just, I know left-handed, it's great, but I'd rather have a better player and have a righty on righty. And let's face it, if you're a right-handed hitter, you face mostly right-handed pitching your entire career. That's just the nature of it. So I don't want to keep a below-average player just because he's left-handed.
And keep in mind, as we're inside the last week of games before it all goes live on Thursday, for all the Astros holes, with a number of them at least that we're unaccustomed to discussing with this ball club heading into a season, neither the Texas Rangers nor Seattle Mariners on paper are fundamentally better than the Astros. So that this team has fallen to also ran status. Hey, the season could evolve that way. But if we were doing Stone Cold Rangers, that wouldn't be very alliterative, or Stone Cold Mariners, we could find plenty of things to be wary, if not flat out panicked about.
Yeah, and deserving of playing time and availability of playing time does seem to be the issue. As Joe Espada has said multiple times, he's not going to carry a young guy on the roster unless they can get regular playing time. He has no interest in icing them on the bench. And so that's where having guys like Cam Smith and Dezenzo vying for the same spots as a position player, especially with if they're dead set on Jose Altuve playing left, then that certainly does seem like one of those guys is going to have to stay down in the minors regardless of their production. So we'll see how it plays out. Yeah. We got a ton of stuff that we didn't get to. We'll try to roll that over to Monday. Just a quick message. If you're interested in advertising your service or product on this show, you can contact our friends on the sales team at houston.sportsmap.com/advertise. And one last reminder, if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't yet, be sure to hit like on the video. And if you listen on podcasts on apps like Apple or Spotify, give us a 5-star rating, please. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on this spring, who you're looking forward to seeing, what you think about Altuve and left. And our next episode will drop on Monday, so make sure you subscribe to this channel, SportsMap Houston, and our other channel, SportsMap Texans. We drop bonus episodes as news breaks. Thanks for listening. For Charlie and Josh, I'm Brandon saying so long. Thanks for listening. Until next time, go Stros.